It is the dawn of Link's first day in Termina, and the moon is falling. Preparations for the Carnival of Time are underway. Carpenters frantically hammer at scaffolding, entertainers of the Gorman troupe practice in the streets, and posters have been pasted onto the town's walls announcing the upcoming performance of the Indie-Go-Go's, the famous Zora band, on the eve of the carnival, 3 days from now. This carnival will not happen. The moon will fall, and on the night of the third day, the world will end. A young boy, his face hidden behind a yellow mask, emerges from the laundry pool into the South Clocktown Square and deposits something in the postbox there. Hours later, the postman picks up this letter and delivers it to the Stockpot Inn's receptionist, a woman named Anju. It's from her fiancé, a man named Kafei, though for some time now, he has been missing. The couple were set to be married during the carnival, as is tradition in Clocktown, but now there are no signs of Kafei, save for this mysterious letter. If Link visits Madame Aroma, the wife of the town's mayor, he can agree to play detective and find the missing Kafei, her son, thus beginning the Zelda series' greatest side quest. One which explores the painfully human lives of so many of Clocktown's residents. A tale that shows the true might of Link's ability to rewind time back to the dawn of the first day, and how the choices he makes during these 3 days drastically alter the course of these people's lives. This is the Anju and Kafei quest, a love story at the end of the world. By wearing the Kafei mask given to him by Madame Aroma, Link can ask the townsfolk for information about the man's whereabouts. The man in the shooting gallery says he knows Kafei, but that he hasn't been there recently, and the treasure chest shop girl gives the same answer. One of the carpenters threatens Link, demanding that he doesn't find Kafei, so that he can have his dear Anju all to himself. The mayor's office receptionist believes that Kafei has broken off his engagement to Anju, and thinks that maybe he doesn't want to be found. The curiosity shop owner gives a suspicious answer, before quickly asking Link to leave, and the bombers point Link towards the laundry pool in the southwest corner of Clocktown. The bombers are correct, as the masked child leaves the laundry pool at dawn on the first day, delivering a letter addressed to Anju. It's delivered by the postman later that day, though he refuses to tell her who it's from, or even from which postbox it was collected. This is the first instance where Link can truly interact with these characters, and change the course of their actions. Link can choose to speak to Anju wearing the Kafei mask, and she'll tell him to meet her later that night in the kitchen, claiming to have a clue to his whereabouts. But if Link doesn't talk to her wearing this mask, or doesn't meet her in the kitchen, she'll continue the investigation on her own. On the second day, as thunder rolls across the sky, as rain patters onto the stone streets of Clocktown, and as the moon draws ever closer, Anju will make her way to the laundry pool, presumably having heard the same rumours as Link about the sightings of Kafei. Here, she'll ask any passers-by about her lost lover, explaining that it's been a month since she last saw him, and wondering if it's her fault he left. Alone, she weeps in the rain, confused and heartbroken. Later that night, Link can use a broken wall to eavesdrop on a conversation between Anju and her mother. Her mother plans to flee Clocktown for Romani Ranch, fearing for their lives. She believes that Kafei might have run away there to be with Cremia, the owner of the ranch and Anju's best friend, but asks Anju that, if this is true, she thinks about Cremia, who would need the strength of a partner and the business support of the mayor's wife to run her ranch. She says that if Kafei really has abandoned her for Cremia, Anju shouldn't be sad, that she'd only have been miserable with a man like that. If Link talks to Anju's mother while wearing the Kafei mask, she'll scold Link for wearing it, showing just how much she dislikes him for what she thinks he's done. But by this point, Link has already had the opportunity to discover that this isn't true. Behind a curtain in the mayor's office, in a room adjacent to the one where Kafei's mother sits, Link can discover Kafei's diary, revealing how excited he was for their wedding, and that he planned to visit the milk bar to show off his ceremonial wedding mask and talk about his fiancée with his friends. Whatever has happened to Kafei isn't as simple as Anju's mother believes. His disappearance wasn't because of another woman. Anju doesn't believe her mother, saying that in the letter, Kafei promised he would come back. But with the moon looming above, Anju relents and agrees to flee the next evening. And this is what they do. Anju, her mother, and her grandmother take refuge at Romani Ranch on the final night, but they don't find Kafei there. Instead, there is only Cremia and her younger sister Romani, who, depending on whether or not Link has completed their quest, may or may not be in an almost brain-dead state after her encounter with the invaders on the first night. Cremia reveals to Link that she knows that even here at the ranch, they aren't safe from the moon, that it means the end not only for Clocktown, but for the whole of Termina. Anju's family face the apocalypse together, with Anju broken, regretting her choice to flee, but knowing that now it's too late. Without Link's involvement, Anju's story is a tragedy. But there's another, more unexpected character who also suffers if Link doesn't interact with the quest in any way: the postman. The postman, at first, seems like quite an inconspicuous character. He obviously takes his work very seriously. On the first day, he'll leave the post office at 9 AM for his collection round and won't stop to talk to Link. If he's followed back to the post office, it becomes apparent just how much his schedule dictates his life. From noon until 1 PM, he'll nap, because that's what his schedule tells him to do. He'll then head out in the afternoon to deliver the letter to Anju, before returning and training his timekeeping skills for the rest of the day. Seeing how seriously he takes his work explains his refusal to give away any information about where he picked up Kafei's letter. As Clocktown's postman, he likely knows more about these townsfolk and their business than anyone else, but his work is his highest priority. On the second day, if Link hasn't progressed through the Anju and Kafei quest, the postman will carry out his collection rounds at 9 AM, but finds that no letters have been posted, probably because the world is ending and the townsfolk are preparing to flee. Link can find him back at the post office, distraught. This is a real problem, because it leaves him unable to follow his scheduled delivery round later that afternoon. Without this, he doesn't understand what he should do, and wishes that someone would tell him. Link is kicked out of the post office at 1 PM, but the postman will remain inside, confused and panicked. At midnight, however, the postman will emerge from his office and deposit something in the South Clocktown post box before returning. On the final day, the postman again begins his collection run at 9 AM and only picks up one letter, the one he left in the South Clocktown postbox the night before. If Link speaks to him after he's returned to his office, he'll admit that he wrote himself a letter that he intends to deliver to himself later on, so that he doesn't have to break his schedule. During his delivery route on the final day, however, the postman will instead travel to each postbox and just touch it, perhaps saying farewell to the closest thing he has to friends. In the afternoon of the final day, Link finds the postman back in his office, kneeling on the floor, utterly possessed by terror and panic. He says that he desperately wants to flee, to escape this doomed town and the falling moon, but can't. It's not written on the schedule. his highest priority. After 6 p.m, there's a change in the post office. The postman has now opened the letter he sent to himself, which now rests on the edge of his bed. It reads, "To myself, you've been doing a great job delivering the mail. I have a request for my hard-working self. All of the townsfolk have taken refuge. I want myself to flee too. Even if it is not written on the schedule, I want myself to flee. Please, from me." But the postman doesn't flee. He stays here, petrified, until the end. Like Anju, the postman's story is heart-wrenching. If Link had not arrived in Termina, these would invariably have been his final moments. Panicking, desperate but unable to flee, shackled to certain doom by his almost religious devotion to his schedule. But Link did arrive in Termina. He is the master of this land's 3 final days, able to reset time and live them over and over again. He can learn the last actions of these characters and work out how to help them. On the first day, Link can choose to meet Anju in the Stockpot Inn's kitchen at night, where she'll tell him her plan. She's written a letter back to Kafei, which Link needs to deposit in a postbox. Then, by following the postman on his delivery rounds, he can meet her missing lover and solve the mystery of his disappearance. Posting Anju's letter on the morning of the second day changes the postman's schedule. He now has something to collect and deliver. This means he does not post a letter to himself that night, and instead heads out on a normal delivery route in the afternoon. Link can follow him to the laundry pool, where he'll deliver the letter to the masked child, the one who originally sent the letter to Anju. While the pair are speaking, Link can sneak into the side door nearby, which is usually locked. This leads into the back of the curiosity shop, and in this secret hideout, the masked child will reveal his identity. He is Kafei, Anju's betrothed. Sometime before Link's arrival in Termina, he had been cursed by the Skull Kid and trapped in the body of a child. He immediately decided to visit the Great Fairy in North Clocktown, but on the way was attacked by a thief who stole his sun mask, a traditional item he intended to give Anju at their wedding. Kafei has been hiding in the back of the curiosity shop, knowing that it is a place where stolen goods are fenced. Certain that his mask will eventually show up, he uses a secret peephole to observe the customers in the shop. Too embarrassed to face his partner without his promised mask, Kafei gives Link his pendant to give to Anju. The pendant means something to Anju, and it's enough proof for her to change her mind and decide to stay in Clocktown for the Carnival of Time. If Link then eavesdrops on her conversation on the second night, it won't have changed. She'll still agree to flee to Romani Ranch on the final day. But this is a lie. At the end of the third day, Link can find Anju's mother and grandmother at Romani Ranch, but not Anju herself. Her mother informs Link that Anju decided to stay and wait for Kafei in Clocktown, and that it is foolish to trust a man like that. Here, Anju's mother reveals that her husband, Anju's father, left her for another woman, explaining why she doesn't trust that Kafei won't do the same to her daughter. Anju believes that her father is dead, but this calls that story into question. Perhaps Anju's mother lied about his death, unwilling to admit that he left his whole family behind. Link can find Anju in Clocktown, like her mother said, sitting in her room on the bed, waiting. And if Link delivered the pendant to Anju but did not help Kafei recover his stolen mask, then this is how Anju's life ends. She sits here, patiently waiting next to a wedding dress she will never wear, alone. This doesn't have to happen. On the first night, an old lady enters North Clocktown, carrying a bag of bombs. She's the mother of the owner of the bomb shop and is delivering a shipment of stock to the family store. Before she can reach the shop, however, she's robbed by Sakon, the very same thief who had stolen Kafei's sun mask a month ago. Link can choose to intervene, either by attacking Sakon with his sword, retrieving the bombs and gaining the blast mask as a reward from the old lady, or by attacking Sakon with any other weapon, detonating the bombs and killing the thief on the spot. However, Link can also choose to allow Sakon to get away with it, either by standing by as he robs her, or by just not being present in North Clocktown on the first night at all. This results in the thief arriving at the curiosity shop on the second night to sell his ill-gotten goods. The curiosity shop owner decides to severely lowball him for the stolen bombs, and Sakon is forced to settle for far less money than he originally hoped for. The shop owner knows that Kafei is using his shop as a hideout, and perhaps knows that this is the same thief who robbed Kafei. Kafei's father, the Mayor Dutour, hints at a connection to the curiosity shop owner if Link speaks to him while wearing the Kafei mask. It seems likely that the mayor actually knows where his son is, but has agreed, along with the curiosity shop owner, to keep it a secret, especially from his worried wife. Kafei, of course, watches the thief sell the bombs through his peephole, which lets him peer through the eyes of a suit of iron knuckle armor in the back of the store. He recognizes the man from when he was robbed, and so decides to follow him back to his hideout and recover his mask. In the afternoon on the final day, Link can return to Kafei's hideout in the back of the shop to find him gone, and the owner standing in his place. He explains that Sakon lives in Ikana village, and tells Link that Kafei chased after him, leaving behind his mask, the Keaton mask, and a letter addressed to his mother, marked as priority mail. Here, Link has two options to continue with the quest. He can choose to deliver the priority mail to Madame Aroma himself, rewarding him with an empty bottle, or he can decide to heal the anguished citizens of Clocktown, to save the postman, and to bring Anju and Kafei together. If Link visits the post office on the final night, he'll of course find the postman there, desperate to flee. If he's given Kafei's letter, he'll realize that this is priority mail and needs to be delivered right away. He'll immediately get dressed and set out for the milk bar to find Madame Aroma, where it is revealed that Kafei's mother is not just the mayor's wife, but the postmaster of Clocktown, the postman's boss. Madame Aroma tries, in vain, to explain the reality of the situation, that the world will end tonight. But the postman says that he cannot flee, as tomorrow's deliveries are still on the schedule. After she accepts the letter from her son, the postmaster orders the postman to flee Clocktown, overruling his schedule. Finally, the postman is free. He has not failed his duties, as he has a direct order to flee. He understands now that he can set his own schedules, and gives Link his hat, before finally leaving Clocktown. To help Kafei, Link needs to travel to Ikana Valley at 6 PM on the final day. Here, he'll find the child hiding out near a secret cave entrance, Sakon's hideout. With only hours until the moon falls, Link and Kafei can storm the thief's lair together, manipulating a series of switches and defeating the enemies within to circumvent Sakon's security measures. If they take too long, however, the sun's mask is lost, and the exits are sealed off, trapping Kafei inside. In this event, Tatl tells Link to leave him, that he can save himself with the Song of Soaring, but that there is no way to help Kafei. However, by working together and completing the hideout before the mask reaches the end of the conveyor belt, the two children are able to recover the sun's mask, the final piece of this puzzle. Kafei thanks Link and makes his journey back to Clocktown, where he finds nobody. If Link has completed every part of the quest, but did not give the Pendant of Memories to Anju, Kafei will return to find that she's fled with her family to Romani Ranch. He stands there, alone, blaming himself, staring at Anju's wedding dress. But if Link has helped Kafei recover the Sun's Mask, and also given Anju the pendant that causes her to stay, the couple finally reunites. With less than 2 hours until the world ends, Kafei finally reaches the Stockpot Inn and enters the room where Anju waits for him. Without asking why Kafei is now a child, Anju recognizes and accepts him. She drops to his level, and the couple finally embrace. They bring together their sun and moon masks, creating a couple's mask, which they give to Link as their witness. Anju and Kafei are united, and tell Link to find refuge, to flee, and that they will remain to face their end together. Unless, if Link has already beaten the game's 4 temples, this does not have to be their end. At the end of his very first cycle in Termina, the Skull Kid had taunted him about the moon. If it's something that can be stopped, then stop it. Now, standing on the precipice of oblivion, Link answers. He plays the Oath to Order. The notes of this ancient song echo across the land, and the 4 giants answer their call. With divine strength, they catch the falling moon, giving Link just enough time to enter the dreamlike space within it and destroy the terrible power sealed in the Skull Kid's mask, Majora itself. Link has used his control of time to prevent Termina's end, and after the moon disintegrates, a new day dawns. No longer bound to the same cycle, the same patterns of anguish and despair, the people of Termina awaken to a world where time is once again their own. It is the dawn of Link's 4th day in Termina, and the moon is gone. The Carnival of Time begins. Fireworks pepper the sky above Clocktown, and its residents celebrate. The Indiegogos play the Ballad of the Windfish on the Milk Bar stage. The dancers of the Gorman troupe show off their new moves, and the old lady from the bomb shop is embraced by her son. If Link has obtained the postman's hat, then the postman himself returns, shown running back, alive and happy. And finally, if Link has reunited Anju and Kafei and obtained the couple's mask, the pair are finally wed. They are oblivious to the countless cycles in which they suffered apart. The loop is broken, and the timeline continues from here, with the couple united. Anju wears her dress, and the Clocktown residents surround them, with Tingle showering them in confetti. Kafei is never shown in this final cutscene. Director Yoshiaki Koizumi said that they agreed it was better to leave it ambiguous whether or not his curse was broken, and he was turned back into an adult. However, this shot appears to be from Kafei's point of view, perhaps implying that he did, indeed, return to normal. Regardless, this additional scene shows the end of Zelda's greatest side quest. Anju and Kafei marry. Of all the Zelda series' many side quests, the story of Anju and Kafei stands as, by far, the most involved, emotional, and memorable. Although it's separate from the game's main story, except for providing masks required for Link to unlock the Fierce Deity's mask, it's an integral part of Majora's Mask, to the point where I wouldn't consider the game to be complete without it. The quest is the greatest showcase of how the game's time loops give the player such an intimate view into the lives of these characters. The quest cannot be completed without studying how these people go about their 3 final days, and how their actions change depending on Link's own decisions, allowing him to peel back the layers of this complicated situation and learn how he can help. The quest forces the player to examine its characters extremely closely, allowing us to see their true depth and the amount of care that went into their design. This isn't only the case for the quest's main characters, like the postman or Anju and Kafei themselves, but side characters too. For example, in order for Link to eavesdrop on Anju's conversation with her mother on the second night, he needs to access the room next door, which has apparently been booked by a Goron, meant to check in on the afternoon of the first day. Link can wear the Goron mask to claim this booking, leading to a fun exchange when the real Goron, coincidentally also called Link, tries to check in afterwards, followed by him being forced to sleep outside. Not that he minds, because the weather's nice compared to the frozen mountains. There's also Cremia, who becomes involved in Anju and Kafei's story not only by harbouring Anju's family when they flee from Clocktown, but by being the object of vicious rumours, blamed for Kafei's disappearance. She's Anju's best friend, but after mentioning the wedding to Link, she'll go quiet for a while. Romani reveals that her older sister actually does have a crush on Kafei, and that the fact that her best friend is marrying him is difficult for her. Even Anju's grandmother is a deeper character than it might seem at first. She appears to be senile, calling both Link and Anju Tortoise, the name of Anju's father, and claiming that she's already eaten when Anju brings her lunch. However, reading her diary reveals that she just hates Anju's cooking, and acting senile is just her plan to get out of eating it. A similar situation happens later on, once her family decides to flee for the ranch. She will mutter to Link that it's been a long time since they'd had a picnic there, but her diary shows that she fully understands the gravity of the situation, and that she plans to take some of her late husband's favourite books with her. Finally, completing the Anju and Kafei quest allows Link to quell one of Clocktown's central conflicts. On any day but the third, a heated argument is taking place in the mayor's office. On one side are two soldiers, pleading for the mayor to order an evacuation of the town. And on the other, Muto, the head carpenter, and one of his workmen, who refuse to believe that the moon will fall, and say that the Carnival of Time should continue. This row wages on, with the mayor at a loss for what to do, unless Link reveals the couple's mask. This shocks everyone, revealing that a young couple has been married. This breaks up the argument, causing everyone to think about their own loved ones, and the mayor decides that it is best for everyone to choose for themselves whether to flee or stay. The development of the Anju and Kafei quest is an interesting story in itself. Shortly after work had concluded on Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask's director, Eiji Aonuma, attended a staff member's wedding, alongside Yoshiaki Koizumi. They were discussing ideas for the kinds of events they could include in the game, and noted that they'd never really seen weddings depicted in these sorts of games before. And at the same time as this staff member's wedding, North Korea was performing a missile test, giving the event a strange feeling that they were at a wedding, celebrating the love of a young couple, while missiles might rain down at any moment. Aonuma and Koizumi decided that this feeling could make for an effective plot point in Majora's Mask, to have a couple wed while the moon falls from the sky. This coincided with a previous decision to age up the themes of the game when compared to its predecessor. While Ocarina of Time's most involved side quest was a long trading sequence, Anju and Kafei's love story would be much more complex, something that Majora's Mask's target audience could really lose themselves in and enjoy. And in doing so, they created what is, in my opinion, the greatest side content in any Zelda game. While it occasionally feels like Zelda games aim at too broad an audience, looking to create problems that the vast majority of people, no matter their age or experience, can solve, this particular game and this particular side quest was designed with the opposite mentality. It requires a lot from the player, planning, memory, and logical thinking, especially in the original version of the game. But this complexity is what makes it so rewarding. It has so many layers, so many tiny details and secrets that you get out what you put in. The closer you examine this story, the more care and attention you give to it, the better it becomes. Thanks for watching this video. What do you think of the Anju and Kafei quest in Majora's Mask? Is it your favourite Zelda side quest, or is something else at the top spot? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, leave a like, or subscribe if you haven't already for more Zelda content. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.